Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to our Sunday Feast program. I wish I don't have two cameras set up here, so I'm just gonna keep my face here. You see me quickly. My name is Krishna Duval Das, and I'm going to be your MC for this evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to 212 Somerset Street East here in Ottawa, Sandy Hill, the residence of our beloved Sri Sri Gaura Nitai. And I'd like to welcome everybody here who are joining us. I can see some familiar faces, or familiar names, should I say. So welcome to all of you. If any of you are here for the first time, extra special welcome. And we could see we have some really nice garlands, some funky garlands that are here. Adisham Prabhu bought some nice ones. Since we weren't able to have real garlands for this week, we have some really nice crafted ones. Prabhupada's got a garland also on his, you can see here. It's a nice gesture of affection. Thank you so much, Adisham Prabhu, for bringing those. And we've got some nice flowers also. And the deities are dressed beautifully. So thank you, dear devotees. And let me just center that here at the beginning. Okay, so what we just did was we finished having an arti ceremony. So it was an offering of different paraphernalia to the Lord. We had water, flour, we had a cow tail that was there as well. And just it's I guess a gesture of affection, welcoming the Lord. This is what we do at the Hare Krishna temples. And the Lord really appreciates any gestures of devotion and a way for us to cultivate relationship with Krishna. And so following this arti ceremony, as habit has it, we usually have a speaker or a topic that is for presentation, and it lasts for about 30 to 45 minutes, followed by questions, answer, comments, realizations. So please, dear devotees, take the time to take it in and prepare your questions or realizations with us. We'd love to hear it afterwards. And then after that, we will have one last short kirtan and last minute darshan with the Lord, and that will conclude our program. So I would like to actually introduce our guest speaker for today. I'm very excited. His Grace Kesi-mardana Prabhu. Welcome. Haribol. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to try to do a little introduction here from what I learned from Gita Nagari Prabhu. So Kesi-mardana Prabhu, he originally grew up in Las Vegas, from what I know, and he met the devotees there while pursuing a psychology degree. And soon after he met the devotees, he started distributing books on the main Las Vegas strip. And after completing the degree, Prabhu moved to Gita Nagari, and there's a farming community, beautiful farming community there, and has been serving there for more than 5 years. Gita Nagari is apparently the only certified slaughter-free dairy farm in US. So it is a very important and successful cow protection project within ISKCON. And Prabhu has been one of the key devotees there. His main service includes taking care of the cows, ox training, believe it or not, and maintaining beehives, as well as some administration. So I'm sure I'm going to have tons of questions actually afterwards, just from the introduction, just to ask Prabhu about the training of the oxes and cow service and beehives. I believe we even have amongst us, we have some bee specialists, some devotees here that make their own honey as well too. So we're very excited to hear from Prabhu, and I believe because we just finished celebrating this week Ram Navami, I think Prabhu has a topic for us that is going to be along that wavelength, and we're hoping that he can throw a little bit of cow kata in there also, some pastimes there as well. So without further ado, over to you, Kesi-mardana Prabhu. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Krishna Dalal Prabhu. I feel very humbled and just very grateful to be here with you. I'm just appreciating the wonderful service that all of you are doing there in Ottawa, and appreciating my first darshan of your Gaura deities and Srila Prabhupada. It looks really wonderful. And from what I've heard from Dinanath, my dear friend who was serving here at Gita Nagari with me for a little more than a year, I've heard about all the different varieties of things that are going on in Ottawa, with schools and potential farms, and of course there's temple, and I'm sure there's lots of Sankirtan and varieties of ways being done. So I feel very grateful to be amongst you, and yeah, hopefully I can share a little bit about Lord Ramachandra and his appearance and his activities, and what maybe we might be able to glean off of the remembrance of Lord Ramachandra, and maybe apply in some ways in our lives today as we move forward and progress in this life. As we know, that this body is it's material, and we're passing through various stages of life. Time waits for no man, and so we always have to consider what is our future and what are the best arrangements that we can make for our future as individual devotees and as communities and so on. And so I hope that I'll be able to talk a little bit about that as well. And I also want to invite anyone who might be listening, if you're in a suitable place and you want to flip on your camera, it's always nice to see smiling faces, but otherwise I understand if it's not possible for your circumstance. Without further ado, I'd like to offer my obeisances to my spiritual master and to our lines of spiritual teachers, offering my respect and gratitude to them. Om Agyanatamanandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gauda Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So last week we had the appearance of Lord Ramachandra, Ram Navami, and I hope that everyone was able to spend a little bit of extra time maybe hearing or chanting or learning a little bit about Lord Ram and his activities. And we as Hare Krishnas, as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we are also Ram Bhaktas. We are also devotees of Lord Ramachandra, because Lord Ramachandra is non-different from Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Ramachandra is Krishna appearing in a different feature. The Acharyas explain that the fullest manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his sweetness is there only in Vrajabhumi, in Sri Vrindavan Dham. And this is what Krishna comes to exhibit when we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam. We're reading perhaps the 10th canto and reading about all the various activities of Krishna from his childhood and going on up into his adulthood and his activities with the gopis and the cowherd damsels of Braj and these loving affairs and exchanges. So we understand that this is the highest kind of sweetness and love that is exhibited by God. And so Krishna is exhibiting those activities in Sri Vrindavan Dham, and Lord Ramachandra, he is also Krishna, but he is Krishna in a different role, in a different feature. And he is modeling for us what is perfect leadership. And just as Krishna is performing activities meant for different purposes, like as we know, Krishna has an external purpose for his appearance, and he has his internal purposes. And so in Krishna's appearance in this world, he describes to us in Bhagavad Gita that his goal is paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkritam, that he's come to remove bad elements from society. And he's come to reestablish the principles of Dharma, the right way to live, the real progressive way for human beings to live. This is what his external reasons for coming are. And of course, Krishna's internal reasons are, as we mentioned, to show us, to manifest these pastimes of sweetness, of loving exchange in Vrindavan. And so Lord Ramachandra, he has come also to show us what is proper leadership, what is a real dharmic king. And also, his internal purpose is to give us a glimpse. Of course, Lord Ramachandra is appearing in Treta Yuga. I understand time is cyclical, and so saying before or after is a little bit different. But Treta Yuga being previous to Dwapara Yuga, where Krishna was appearing, he's giving us also a glimpse of this sweetness of love, this intensity of love that Krishna exhibits in Vrindavan, this love in separation. And so Lord Ram in his activities, and we'll talk a little bit about his the Ramayana and the pastimes of Lord Ram, but he is giving us both of these things at the same time. He's showing us what is real leadership, what does a real leader mean, and also this intense love that is existing between Ram, between Sita, and also between Ram's devotees and him. And he's giving us a glimpse of this. Whereas we say Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan, he is the original personality of Godhead because he is revealing this sweetness in full. And of course, Lord Chaitanya Gauranga Mahaprabhu, he's not revealing these intimate pastimes, he's not playing the role of Krishna, the enjoyer in Vrindavan, but he is showing us how to become that sweet devotee, and he is freely giving this thing that Krishna shows us. He is wanting to give it out freely to us. And so in this way, we can understand the ontology of Krishna as a supreme personality of Godhead, and the relationship between Krishna, between Lord Ramachandra and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so Lord Ramachandra is showing us, just as a loving father and loving parents, they are modeling, they're providing behavioral models for their children, healthy behavioral models, right? We always want someone to look up to. It's natural in human society that we're looking for someone to look up to so that we can see that, yeah, actually this person is successful. They're living the life that I want to live. They're experiencing things that I want to experience. And so therefore, let me behave in the way that they do. And so the perfect person to be a model for us is actually Krishna, the Supreme Person. And Lord Ramachandra in the Ramayana and his pastimes is also showing us how to face extreme difficulty, extreme turmoil, reversals, betrayal, even amongst family. And he's showing us how to take those difficulties on and to accept our duty, to accept that even what may seem without cause or something to events occur that it seems there's no one to fault for, but still we must accept them and continue in our duty as perfectly as we possibly can. And so Lord Ramachandra is modeling for us this wonderful behavior. And of course, Lord Ramachandra is not just doing this alone, as Krishna does himself with all of his avatars. Krishna appears with his entourage. He doesn't come just alone. And this is, of course, for me, one of the very beautiful and relevant, very tangible aspects of our philosophy and our theology, is this importance of relationship. And Krishna is showing us in all of his activities and all of his different appearances, and certainly in the pastimes of Ram, is also showing us this importance. Of course, Ram, he appeared alongside his his three brothers, Bharat, and then Lakshmana and Shatrughna. And his parents, Dasarath and Kausalya, Maharaj Dasarath and Queen Kausalya, they are also very elevated, exalted devotees of Lord Ram. Just as in the case of in Krishna's pastimes with Devaki and Vasudeva, who were performing great sacrifices and austerities so that they could receive the personality of Godhead as their son. And so similarly, King Dasharath and Queen Kausalya were also very exalted devotees. And Dasarath, being a great king, he was lacking the only thing that a great king is really hankering for, and that's a great son. And Dasarath had been lacking any son, and performed according to the principles of Dharma for the Yuga that Dasarath Pandit existed in, Treta Yuga. The Yuga Dharma, the specific activity for spiritual elevation in that age, is performance of yagyas, of great sacrifices, big fire sacrifices with great opulence, things that we can't even conceive of today. I was putting together some garden equipment the other day, one trellis, to hang roses and things like this on. And it's a nice piece of equipment, was fairly expensive. And I'm taking it out and putting it all together. And it's pieces of PVC that connect, plastic, basically plastic, all connecting together. But it's molded as to give it this effect as if it was made of wood or, some nice materials. But of course, it's actually cheap plastic. So we're kind of, we're at a bit of a loss in the modern age, actually. It's hard for us to even conceive of the opulence of these sacrifices and these different ceremonies that we read about. Gold plates and ornaments and fresh ghee and so many wonderful natural things, opulences that we don't even have access to today. So Dasarath, as a great king, offered all of these, and he was able to, actually he was given a special cup with a food that he was given to his wives to actually be able to beget his sons. So Lord Ramachandra was able to appear from the womb of Kausalya, and then Dasarath's two other wives gave birth to his brothers, Bharat, Lakshmana, and Shatrughna. And of course, these three brothers are actually the principal expansions of Krishna himself. In the feature of Narayan, we have the Chaturvyuha, where there's Narayan, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, and Vasudeva. So similarly, in Lord Ram's pastimes, these four brothers appeared. Lord Ram, as a boy, similarly in the case of Krishna, was the most beloved object of his parents. In fact, the entire city of Ayodhya was completely overwhelmed with love for Lord Ram. And at a certain age, Lord Ram, as is the case in many cultures for young men, when they become a certain age in their teenagehood, they may go through some rite of passage. In many cultures, there are different rites of passage that young men go through, kind of an initiation ceremony. And so similarly, Lord Ram, at his teenage age, Vishwamitra Muni, he approached Dasarath and he told Dasarath, there are so many demons that are killing Brahmins. There are demons in the forest who are pouring filthy things into the sacrificial fires of our Brahmins who are trying to bring out auspiciousness for the community. So let me take Lord Ram and I will teach him. I will teach him how to fight and teach him how to remove these elements from the forest which are disturbing us. And Dasarath, even though understanding Lord Ram is a supreme personality of Godhead, he's full in all opulences and all strength and beauty and wisdom. But seeing that actually, no, this is just my little boy. This is just my son, Lord Ram. You can't take Ram into the forest to fight demons. He may get hurt. And in this way, we can appreciate how Krishna doesn't actually want to enjoy reverence and awe and distant appreciation. Krishna, just like us, wants to enjoy intimate expressions of affection. And so in his pastimes, as Lord Ram, we hear amongst all of his family members, they can't accept even a moment of separation from Lord Ram. In any case, Vishwamitra Muni takes Lord Ram to the forest, and as we know, Lord Ram killed many demons, and he also acquired the bow of Shiva, this great bow that could not be strung. And after stringing that bow, Lord Ram brought home Sita Devi. And Sita Devi, the people of Ayodhya thought they couldn't love Lord Ram more than anyone else. But when they met Sita Devi, they thought their hearts were completely full, bursting full of love to see Lord Ram with Sita Devi. And they could see that this was the bright future coming for our city, that we'll have Lord Ram and Sita Devi, and they'll be married, and they'll be seated on the throne, and everything will be wonderful in Ayodhya. But Lord Ramachandra, he has purposes, and in his pastime, he wants to also show us that at any moment, what seems a good situation can be turned upside down at any moment. And so Lord Ram actually empowered, or yes, you can say empowered, and invested his Mahamaya potency into Manthara, Manthara is the maidservant of Kaikeyi, who is the third wife of Dasarath and the mother of Bharat. And embodying the troublesomeness of the Lord's external potency, Mahamaya, she bewildered Kaikeyi, the wife of Dasarath, and spoke to her very painful and actually deceitful words, trying to convince Kaikeyi, who had received a benediction from Dasarath, who was dying on a field of battle in previous ages. He was wasting away, and she was able to bring him back to life, but she asked him, I want 2 wishes you will grant me in the future. I won't tell you what they are now, but you must grant me 2 requests in the future, whatever they are. And Dasarath, of course, accepted. And at this time, Manthara polluted the mind of Kaikeyi, reminding her that the king has not fulfilled your 2 wishes. And now Ram and Sita, they are to be married, and they will take the throne, and what will become of you? Bharat Maharaj is the second son, and what will your position become? And in this way, she filled the mind of Kaikeyi, who actually appreciated Ram and raised Ram as her own son, loved him as her own son. But somehow or other, Manthara was able to pollute the mind of Kaikeyi and convince her that she should have Ram banished from Ayodhya for 14 years. And with the second wish, she should have Bharat be placed on the throne in his place. And so Kaikeyi, filled with this very deceitful motivation, approached King Dasarath, and she asked Dasarath, you remember, Dasarath, that I have asked you for 2 requests that you must fulfill, no matter what they are. And Dasarath said, of course, my dear wife, I remember. Whatever it is that you desire, I will give you anything. I love you very dearly. And she asked him again, anything I ask, there can be no limit to what you're willing to give. This was your promise. And again, Dasarath reassured her, of course, yes, whatever it is, my wife, that you would like, I will fulfill your desire. I am the great king of Ayodhya. I have all facilities at my dispensal. So please tell me what it is that you desire. And with a heart very cold and hard, Kaikeyi informed Dasarath of her desire to have Ram banished to the forest for 14 years, and for Bharat, her son, to take the throne in his place. And Dasarath, of course, was thrown absolutely into complete woes of dreadful emotion, not being able to believe his ears. He implored as much as he could as possible with Kaikeyi, begging her to ask for anything other than sending Ram away. But her mind was made up, and her heart was very hard. it was actually supposed to be the coronation of Lord Ramachandra. And all kinds of arrangements and decorations and organization and planning of events and so on was being done in the city of Ayodhya. And Dasarath came with Kaikeyi to the coronation ceremony and informed Lord Ramachandra of what had been done, of what had been requested. Dasarath pleaded with Lord Ram, please do not allow this to go forward. I don't care about my honor as a king. I don't care about breaking my word. Please don't leave. Do not let us be in separation of you. And of course, Lord Ramachandra, being the perfect personification of duty and dharma, he accepted that this was destiny, that this was providence, and that it was simply his duty to uphold the word of his father, to take this troublesome event on his head and continue forward. Dasarath, in his younger age, he remembered that at one time, as is usual for Kshatriya or warriors, they need to keep their skills in top shape. And so often in Vedic times, Kshatriya warriors, they would go out into the forest and hunt animals, tigers, deer, so on, practicing their skills with bows and arrows and so on, so that they can be in top shape for battle. And so at one time, Dasarath also, he was in the forest outside of Ayodhya, and he was hunting. And what he thought was a deer, he aimed his bow and shot an arrow. What he thought was a deer going to drink water from a watering hole, but actually it was actually a boy who was going to fetch water for his elderly parents. And he was fatally injured, and Dasarath was terribly overwhelmed with grief for what he had done, expressed extreme, sincere apologies for what he had done, and he brought the boy back to his parents. And his two Brahmana parents had been out there in the forest performing austerities and living a very dutiful, austere life. But they were struck and overcome with grief and sadness at the death of their son. And so, although this had happened, Dasarath begged for forgiveness, and the Brahmanas did not curse him for anything, but he did tell him that just as I am going to die in separation from my son, so you also will die in separation from your son. And so in this way, as the city emptied, and Ram and Sumantra, his chariot driver, began to leave the city, Sita Devi, who very firmly expressed her commitment to stay with Ram. He tested her once, he asked her once, no, you should stay. And she expressed very firmly that she would be coming with him. So on the chariot, there's Ram and Sita, and of course Lakshman, who never leaves Ram's side. And so they're on their chariot leaving Ayodhya, and the entire city of Ayodhya has basically emptied out, following Lord Ramachandra, begging him not to leave. And in this way, after the departure of Lord Ram, Dasarath succumbed to grief of separation and left his body, further plunging the city of Ayodhya into despair. This is an example for us, as I think about this, in our communities, we are trying as much as we can to develop a spirit of devotion towards to our deities. And we're looking at your lovely Gaur Nitai deities. And here in Gita Nagari, we have our lovely Radha Damodar deities. And in Ayodhya, the deities in the hearts of all of the citizens were Ram and Sita. And it's an interesting and relevant point for us to consider is how can we develop communities with such devotion? That without a second thought, everyone will go to serve the deity. And so in this way, the devotees in Ayodhya are also showing us examples of how to be true bhaktas, true Ram bhaktas. And of course, in Gaura Lila as well, we get to read about and hear about the staunch devotion of Ram bhaktas like Murari Gupta and Ramdas Vipra. And despite the teasing and challenging mood of Lord Chaitanya, who would try and glorify Krishna over Lord Ram. In the association of these Ram Bhaktas, he would sometimes try to make it seem as if Krishna is superior, and why are you still worshiping Lord Ram? You should worship Krishna. But the staunch devotion of a true Ram Bhakta is nothing that can ever be wavered. And this is something that we see is there in the entire community of Ayodhya. So as Ram left the city of Ayodhya, and they traveled for one day, and then they were going to take rest in the evening. And so Ram and Sumantra, Sita and Lakshman, they parked, they made some camp, and also the entire city of Ayodhya who had left also made their camp. But Ram knew we cannot continue into the forest with the entire city of Ayodhya. And so he told Sumantra and Lakshman and Sita, in the middle of the night, come, we must leave now. And in the middle of the night, Ram and Lakshman and Sita were able to separate themselves from the rest of the citizens of Ayodhya and continue on into their journey into the jungle. And as they were traveling and going through the forest, they were hearing from all the brahmanas about these rakshasas who were becoming more and more prominent in the forest, who were killing brahmanas, interrupting sacrifices and yagyas, doing awful things in the forest, and making the life of the sages and ascetics who are living there very, very difficult. And this is a part of Ram's pastimes where we can see that he has come to establish Dharma, to serve the brahmanas, just as Krishna exhibited. Go Brahmanya Devaya, Go Brahmanya Taicha. So Krishna is always looking to serve the brahmanas and spiritual cows. And so similarly, Lord Ramachandra goes to the forest to serve the brahmanas, and there he meets Suparnaka, the sister of Ravan. And the sister of Ravan, she has come and she wants to enjoy Lord Ram. You can see that this is the demonic tendency. There's always we see some beautiful object, we see something nice, we like to take it, control it, and enjoy it for ourselves. And so Suparnaka, the demon sister of Ravana, she also had this motivation to try to take Ram, kill Sita, and enjoy him for herself. Of course, that was not going to be an option. So rather than killing her, as Lakshman thought that this would be against the principles of Dharma to kill a woman, so Lakshman kind of mutilated her, cut off her nose, and sent her, running and screaming. And this is kind of where the real fight begins in the Ramayana. That the sister of Ravan has now been offended by Lord Ram, and she's going to Ravan and she's going to plead, how can you let this human in the forest, how can you let him mutilate me, the sister of the great Ravan, the great demon king? How can you allow him to do this? And in this way, trying to muster up Ravan's anger and energy to go out and fight. And Ravan wasn't really convinced until he saw Sita. And when he saw Sita for the first time, then Ravan's heart became filled with such lust that it overwhelmed him. And he decided that there was nothing else that could satisfy him in the world than by capturing and possessing Sita. And of course, as we know, this was to his own detriment. And through various trickery and magic, Ravan was able to take Sita. He was able to distract Lakshman and Ram and trick Sita into coming with her. It's important to remember always that Ram and Sita, just like Lakshmi and Narayan and Radha and Krishna, they can never actually be separated. And Lord Ram and Sita Devi, they are never touched or influenced at all by the material energy. And so in this way, the Acharyas explain that although it seems that Ravana had taken Sita, what we understand has actually happened is that Agni Dev actually came before Ravan came to take Sita and took Sita with him, the real Sita, and replaced Sita kind of with a Maya Sita. And this is actually the Sita that Ravan captured and took with him. Because Sita can never actually be touched by a demon or by anyone with any material motivation. That she is simply and always at the lotus feet of her husband, Lord Ram. And then, of course, at the end of our narration, Sita returns from Agni's protection when she passes through the fire of purification. And it's stated by the Acharyas that the real Sita comes out of the fire of purification, and the Maya Sita is consumed by this fire. In any case, Ravana is able to trick Sita to come, and Lord Ram is going to amass an army and meet Hanuman, the great Bhakta. And Hanuman's devotion to Lord Ram is so powerful that he could have ended the entire situation himself. He was the son of Vayu. He was empowered to do incredible feats. He could make his body very tiny or very large, like a mountain, and he could jump and fly great distances. And in fact, he did so. He flew straight to Lanka himself. He went and saw Sita himself, and he brought with him a ring from Lord Ram to show that he was a true messenger of Lord Ramachandra. And he offered to Sita, I can take you back now. You jump on my back, and we will fly, and I will take you to Lord Ram today, and you'll never have to see this place again. But Sita, feeling very dutiful and extremely chaste to her husband, said, no, I cannot. I will wait for Lord Ram. Please send that message and bring him as quickly as possible. And so Hanuman, again, he actually, before he decided to leave Lanka, he wanted to make a little fun. So he allowed himself to be captured by Ravan's guards. And they brought him into Ravan's assembly room, and they tried as much as they could to try to get any information from Hanuman, to try to discredit him and so on. And Hanuman actually lit his tail on fire, but Agni was protecting him. And so with a tail on fire, Hanuman ran around the city of Lanka and lit the entire city on fire, and then jumped back to go to Lord Ram. And we can hear in the Ramayana about the wonderful lessons and devotion that Lord Ram and his devotees give us as they're traveling to Lanka. Of course, we know the famous and very inspiring story of the bridge being built to Lanka, great stones being cast into the sea inscribed on them the names of Lord Ram. And rather than sinking to the bottom of the ocean, they were able to build a bridge. And so great apes like Hanuman and bears and great beasts were throwing huge stones into the river, and little spiders and squirrels were putting pebbles and grains of sand and filling in the gaps. And Lord Ram always made sure to know that these small devotees with their small offerings, their contribution is even more valuable than the great stones thrown by huge, great beasts. And so we can always take some shelter in knowing that too. Sometimes it certainly feels in our devotional lives, especially as you go on, some years may pass. There are times and years that feels like we're doing so much, and we're able to offer so much in the service of Krishna and in the service of the devotees. And then sometimes it feels we're just doing this tiny, barely all that can, bare minimum, that can be done. And sometimes it can be a little bit disappointing, we might feel. But we should always know that Krishna is really looking for our sincerity. And Lord Ram is showing that as well in this pastime, that he is really looking for sincerity and affection in the heart. So whatever that is that we're able to offer, Lord Ram will reciprocate with. So after the bridge was built to Lanka, we have this great climactic battle that ensues, where the favorite son of Ravan, Indrajit, was very proud in his skills as a warrior. In fact, his name, Indrajit, it means the conqueror of Indra, which he had actually done in previous years. He had actually conquered Indra. And he was no match at all for Lord Ram and his army. As we know, Ravana succumbed. He was defeated by Lord Ram, and Sita Devi and Lord Ram were reunited. Of course, we know they are actually never separate, but for showing us, for giving us examples and giving us models that we can learn from, the Lord exhibits these leelas for us, and so that we can become inspired to experience what these devotees are experiencing, this unalloyed affection and devotion. It's something that is, when hearing about it, this is why hearing in our bhakti practice is so important, because simply by hearing about these pastimes and hearing about the emotional exchanges between devotees and the Lord, we become inspired to want to experience something like that in our life. We can maybe have some reflection about the level of emotional reciprocation that we might experience in the world. And in general, this is at the root of what we're seeking. And certainly in the pastimes of Krishna and Lord Ram, we can see how spiritual relationships are able to offer the most fulfilling experience for us. And so devotees, we have a very special opportunity being connected with these pastimes of Lord Ram and of Lord Krishna and of course of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And just as Lord Ramachandra is appearing to show us a model for how we can live as and become real leaders, servant leaders, proper servant leaders. So similarly, devotees having this opportunity to hear from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we also should try as much as we can to embody those models, these divine models, and actually show them to the world, so that we can embody the principles and the not only the principles, but the love, the affection, the devotion, and the sincerity of the devotees of Lord Ram. And we can try and show the qualities of Ram in our behavior. We may have some position, some leadership position, whether it's in an organization, in a company, or maybe it's just in your own family. And how do we define leadership, and what are the qualities of a leader that we would like to embody? We can look at Ramayana and we see two very different styles of leadership. There's Ravan style and Rama style. And Ravan style didn't end very well. And also for everyone involved, it's a very unfortunate situation. And so we try to embody Rama style leadership, which is real servant leadership, spiritual leadership. And so there are different opportunities for us as devotees according to our nature, according to where we live and so on. But we have a variety of contexts in which we can try to be an example for others. And the first and most important thing is to take care of ourselves and to learn what it is about ourselves that brings us balance and motivation and steadiness in our spiritual practices. And so as I'm getting to attend for the first time, I hope not the last time, the Ottawa Sunday Feast class, I'm appreciating how many of you are appearing, and I'm sure it's regularly coming together to chant and hear. I'm sure everyone would love to be in person as much as possible, but we're doing the best that we can with the circumstances that we have, especially first and foremostly to come together and chant together the holy names. This is the Sankirtan Yagya. This is our Yuga Dharma. It's our appropriate practice for this age, and it is Kevala Ananda Kanda. It's just simply blissful. And so we're very specially endowed with the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that we have this opportunity, very simple opportunity to model a very blissful lifestyle for others. That you come, you do your duty, you have your occupational duties as they may be, but as much as possible, organize our lives so that we can come together for very sincere chanting of the holy names, and also so that we can use our intelligence and our facilities and our capacity to try to organize new ways to introduce people to chanting as well. This is the quality of a devotee. The devotee is a brahmana. A devotee is one who wants to give. The quality of a brahmana is that a brahmana only takes as much as what the brahmana may need for his own self-sufficiency. And then everything else, as much as possible, a brahmin wants to give to others in need. And so similarly, the holy name is so wonderful that it doesn't ever decrease, no matter how many people you give it to or how much of it you take for yourself. It never decreases in its potency or its quality. And so what we can do, we can try and organize and use all of our intelligence and our faculties and our artistry and whatever it might be to try to bring others to this wonderful Kevala Ananda Kanda, this simply blissful path of Bhakti Yoga. And this is the constant meditation of Nityananda Prabhu in Gaura Lila, is to simply assist Lord Chaitanya in the sharing of the holy name. Balaram is simply acting as the assistant of Lord Krishna, and similarly Lakshman is always at Ram's side, serving and aiding in whatever Ram's mission is. And so in Kali Yuga, in our age, the Yuga avatar is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is non-different from Lord Ramachandra, and Nityananda Prabhu, who is non-different from Lakshman. And their meditation is to simply try to inundate the world with this chanting of the holy names. And as devotees, we're trying as much as we can to inundate our own lives with chanting, sincere chanting, and hearing about Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada gave us a wonderful structure and he gave us all of these temples that we have and centers. And beyond that, Srila Prabhupada, especially coming towards the last years of his presence with us on this planet, became very much concerned about how can devotees live sustainably so that they can chant without anxiety as much as possible. In this material world, there will always be anxiety. You can be certain of that. There's not too many things we can be certain of in the material world, but the one thing we can be certain of, there will be anxiety, there will be some struggle, there will be some difficulty, so we can be certain of that. But how can we live? What is the most intelligent way as a human society that we can live with reduced anxiety and more opportunity for chanting and sharing the chanting of the holy names? And this is what Prabhupada's idea was for sustainable communities, communities like Ayodhya, where the center focus of all of the residents is their deities, their Ishtadevs. And these communities, there must be families, and for families, there must be economies, and for economies, there must be organization and structure and so on. And so we have a wonderful opportunity, and I've been staying here at Gita Nagari for the last 5 years to try to implement Srila Prabhupada's teachings regarding devotional communities, cow protection, and moving towards a local and agricultural economy. And it may seem as a far-off goal, especially if we're maybe living in the city or in the suburbs. I grew up in Las Vegas. It's certainly not a very agricultural place, so cities, you're living there, it might seem like a far-off goal. Cow protection, sustainability, growing food, and an agricultural economy. It seems kind of a distant thing. But I appreciate the efforts that you all are doing in Ottawa. And I have to be honest, it seems that you've laid a wonderful blueprint for a community to organically expand and add on and try to embody more of what Prabhupada wanted for devotional communities. And this is certainly Dharma. And what we're trying as much as we can in our communities through sharing Krishna consciousness and also through living with the land, protecting cows, growing food, is to try to secure our long-term absorption in chanting Hare Krishna. This is the simple goal. And so as much as our engagement in those auxiliary activities, farming, cow protection, and so on, if they're able to help us to chant and to share chanting more, then we should try as much as possible to implement those things into our communities and into our personal lives as much as possible. And Srila Prabhupada has ensured us, in fact, you may not know, in 1977, Srila Prabhupada started to become quite ill as he was preparing to leave the planet. And he had left to go to Vrindavan to prepare. And I can't remember the month, but not several months before Prabhupada departed the world, he actually left Vrindavan, told the devotees, I want to go to Gita Nagari, and I want to show everyone how to live off the land. This was Prabhupada's kind of final motivation. And he actually left Vrindavan, got to London, and when his health was severely deteriorating at that point, the devotees implored Srila Prabhupada to return to Vrindavan, which he did. But I just bring this up to highlight the importance to Srila Prabhupada of us really having sustainable communities and having communities that are held together by very deep bonds. And this is certainly something that in an opportunity like farming and cow protection, and any move towards our local sustainability that will help to bring that about. So I'm very encouraged by everything that you all are doing in Ottawa. I hope maybe someday I'll be able to take a drive up to Canada and see you all there. But I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. And yeah, I mean, Dinanath is asking for cow kata. There's so much to talk about with cows, but yeah, it's a very special opportunity. Like I said, I grew up in Las Vegas, very far place from any dairy farm, and what to speak of a Hare Krishna dairy farm. But you sometimes you don't know what you missed until you have it, and you realize, oh my God, I've been missing this the whole time. So that's how I feel sometimes maybe devotees are about cows. Sometimes I think maybe devotees don't realize actually how much they're missing out, on being able to, live near cows and to be able to serve cows, and have them as part of their lives and as part of their community. It's a very wonderful experience. It can be difficult at times. It can be a little bit challenging, of course, but yeah, there's just something very, very special about living according to the teachings of Krishna, about cow protection, about protecting the land, maintaining the land. And we can see very practically how this is a formula for bringing a human being up into the mode of goodness and being very firmly situated there. And so yes, cows, they are so wonderful that simply by associating with cows in a benevolent way can raise a person from the mode of ignorance into the mode of goodness. Something that I've actually seen myself. I been here for a few years, and I remember a few years ago there was one girl, woman, maybe in her late 20s or early 30s, and she approached me one time at a retreat. We do sometimes these farm retreats here, bringing different groups with, they can sometimes they're yoga groups and sometimes professionals and so on. But in any case, there was one lady here for a retreat, and she approached me and she told me, she said, "Hey, I just wanted to tell you, I was here for another retreat once before. This is my second time coming, and at that retreat, I saw you walking into the barn with the cows. Just walking into the. We think we think we're just walking into the barn with the cows." And she said, "I just saw you walking into the barn with the cows, and I could see the affection that was shared between you and the other people who were, walking with the cows and bringing them into the barn." And she said, "When I came for that retreat, I was eating meat." And she said, "After I saw that, I could not eat meat ever again." And she told me this, and kind of with a tear in her eye, that she was appreciating this. So, what can sometimes take you can spend many hours maybe explaining philosophy or trying to convince someone about karma and so on. In a simple moment of just seeing a genuine affectionate exchange, someone can have a very powerful change of heart. And I think that that's really what kind of cows bring when you put them into the equation. They have a way of changing people's hearts. So I think devotees, we also have to try as much as we can to allow our hearts to be changed by the cows, and by trying to engage ourselves in some way in protecting and taking care of cows, because they are very special and very important. As we mentioned earlier, this verse, Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Hitaya Cha, that Krishna actually appreciates the cows more than the Brahmins. So we have a really nice opportunity if we can, wherever we are, and different, if maybe you're not close to cows and it's maybe difficult to do some physical service, but you can try and support devotees who are looking after cows, or contribute to places that that cows are going to be well taken care of. And you will see that this effect of the softening of the heart and the kind of casting off of shells of the lower modes of nature can come simply by having this nice association with cows. So I highly recommend it to all devotees. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much. It was really wonderful to hear you speak. Well, to hear you speak on everything you were speaking. Nice to hear about the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra and what's happening in Gita Nagari. So maybe at this point, if it's all right with you, maybe we'll go to some questions. Perhaps if devotees here have some questions, maybe realizations, appreciations that you'd like to share, perhaps you could raise your hand. There is a feature there at the bottom of the Zoom entitled Reactions. So you can go click on that, and there's a hand button. You can press that, and perhaps you can, if you have some questions or comments, you can go ahead. Oh, we have Mother Ann. Please go ahead, Mother.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you very much for your wonderful presentations. It was very inspiring, and there were also many nice threads in your presentations, one about leadership, for example, and the one about devotional community. And earlier in your presentation, you asked how do we cultivate a devotional community, or how do we create such community? And then you started to answer that question later, and you gave a few pieces of information, such as the importance of having families, deities, local economy. But I've never been to Gita Nagari, but could you elaborate a little bit more on why this works at this place? What are the specific ingredients that, and you mentioned also the deep bonds, the binding elements between devotees, between the different parts of a community. So could you elaborate a little bit more about this community?
Yeah, thank you so much. That was a really wonderful question. I appreciate it very much. And yeah, a couple of things come to mind as you're asking this question. I would say first and foremost is any success that we might have at Gita Nagari, or I really think quite anywhere in Krishna consciousness, is that every individual who is offering their service to the project, we are trying as much as possible to see Radha Damodar as the central enjoyer and proprietor of everything. That our service engagement, everything as much as possible in our life, we try to see in connection with, first of all, the enjoyment of Radha Damodar, and what will be bringing pleasure to Radha Damodar. If I take on this extra project maybe, or if I behave in this particular way towards that devotee, what will be the result in regards to the pleasure of Radha Damodar? And if we can have that as much as possible as the guiding principle in our life, so many things can be smooth. There will always be some mind bumps here and there, but that's most important. I would also say that I'm a single man myself, so I can't say much about having children and families and so on, but I have taken care of several of our cows from the time that they were born until now, and they're big grown animals. And so I would say that there's also something that happens when devotees can come together and also be willing to take responsibility for the service of Krishna and to take personal responsibility for things that, of course, we understand that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and proprietor of whatever it is that we may take responsibility for. But we understand also that I'm trying to offer myself as an instrument for Krishna's use, and therefore he may require me to actually take on some individual responsibility. And that may actually be difficult for me. It might be trying, it may be challenging, but if we have some facility, and if we have even the opportunity to take on responsibility in the engagement of Lord Chaitanya's mission, we should see that that's actually an amazing opportunity. And we're very fortunate to be able to have those opportunities. And so if you see one and you're capable, try and grab it as you can. And when devotees are eager together to take responsibility in the service of their deities, of their community deities, then I think that that is what will strengthen those bonds as well. Because we're also human beings. We're not fully, perfected and realized and completely detached. Many of us, at least speaking for myself, on the mixed devotional platform. So when we take responsibility for something, we want to see it successful. There may be some part of us that's is also a little bit of an extension of us, that we see, this service project that I'm taking responsibility for. I want it to be successful for the pleasure of Krishna, and also because I'm doing it, I want it to be successful, and that's wonderful. And if devotees can come together and have that enthusiasm and also be able to respect the differences amongst devotees in the community, that some devotees maybe have taken responsibility for this service and they maybe do it in a particular way. I might do it differently, but we can respect. We're all actually different people coming from all kinds of different backgrounds and so on, but we're trying to come together for a common goal and a common mission. And so let's try with enthusiasm to be able to do that and be willing to take on some personal risk. That's what responsibility also means, is that there's sometimes some risk involved, and we can feel enthusiastic that, wow, Krishna is willing also to risk it on me a little bit, and we can feel enthusiastic in that way and try to take on something more for the mission of Lord Chaitanya.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Next we have Raja.
Hare Krishna. That was so nice. Thank you so much. I was just thinking how at the beginning you were saying how to be proper leaders, and always with that there's some insecurity that arises, because sometimes we can feel that what is a proper leader? So many people have more better qualifications. Is it a look at me that I'm not proper because this thing? And then I liked at the end, you just qualified it so much by this one word that gave so much security of the proper servant leader. So all I actually have to do is continue trying to serve, and in that way, I can lead and fulfill the multiple different roles that I have. So that was something that stuck out. And then in line with that, another reflection was just when you were speaking about how Kaikeyi's mind was filled with this, deceitfulness, kind of almost, it seems, brought on by fear. And, but her motivation was deceitful. And I was just thinking recently, I was listening to something and the person was saying, Krishna consciousness is all about our motivation. And so this was such a nice way, again, just to reflect, in our servant leader roles, what is our motivation for everything that we're doing? Why are we doing these things? And that's it. Just two nice food for thought points that came out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mother Raja. That was really nice. Yeah, you reminded me actually one part of Ram Leela that I didn't really touch on, when Ram was leaving Ayodhya, and I believe actually it was after he separated himself from the citizens. And again, Bharat actually came after him himself. And of course, Bharat had been installed as the king, but Bharat he wanted nothing to do with that. And so he went to Lord Ramachandra. He begged him, please allow me to stay in exile in your stead. Instead of you go back and rule the kingdom. I'll do the 14 years in exile. And Ram, of course, refused. And so the best that Bharat could do is he offered a pair of wooden shoes for Lord Ram to step in. And he told him, okay, we will take your shoes, we will place your shoes on the throne, and then we will worship your shoes until you come back. But during those 14 years, Bharat was king. He was the leader. But he dressed himself in tree bark. He accepted the austerities of Lord Ram. And rather than ever even thinking of sitting on the throne himself, he placed the shoes of Lord Ram and they would worship them every day. And so also similarly for us, we can think if we're in some leadership position, the point of our being in that role is not for our personal enjoyment or the acceptance of whatever pleasures may come with a position of leadership, but rather we see ourselves as in a special role to facilitate the growth and development of others. And that's definitely what Lord Ram and Bharat as well are showing us in Ram Leela. So thank you. That's very important for us, I think, to always remember, finding ourselves in any leadership position is to remember always that we're in this position to facilitate the growth of others. And as much as we do so, we're very successful leaders. But if we don't facilitate the growth of others in our leadership position, then what can we say?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. Wonderful question. So here I'm just going to read a few comments. We're in the chat section there. Guru Prasad Prabhu, he said, wonderful presentation by His Grace Kesi-mardana Prabhu. I like the way Prabhu brought out that by appreciating the exemplary devotees like Sri Hanumanji, we all can increase our own devotion to Lord Ram, Lord Krishna, or Lord Chaitanya. The main thrust is on relationships amongst devotees in service to the deities in our temples. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Yeah, and I think that's a really nice point that Prabhu brought out as well about bringing the devotees together to serve the deities in your local temple. Prabhupada was also very very instructive about this as well. He wanted that if devotees are living nearby a temple, that we should all consider that these temple deities they are first and foremost for our community, and we should all consider that it's our great opportunity for us that we have deities, so close to us that we can go and we can chant kirtan in front of, that we can offer arati to, and we can hold festivals for. It's such an amazing, special opportunity. Only 50 years ago in North America, practically, there was no such opportunity. So if we have such an opportunity nearby us, we should try as much as possible to take full advantage, because it's so special, and it will also, as we talked about, it will bring out these loving bonds, and it gives opportunities. The temples are places where devotees can come together, and then when we come together, what do? We engage in loving exchanges, right? We engage in loving exchanges with each other, and in this way we become very close. And if we become very close with devotees, then we're very safe from Maya, and that's what we're wanting most.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Do we have time for one more question, one last question? Is that okay, Kesi-mardana Prabhu?
Oh, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we have a hand up here from Matthew Prabhu. Please, Matthew, go ahead.
Audio okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
Very good. So Prabhu, I just wanted to maybe express appreciation for your presentation and the different dimensions you brought. And it also reminded me, having visited the Gita Nagari on short episodes a few times, just driving through on our way back to Canada, that I kind of didn't realize that the Radha Damodar in Gita Nagari were the same Radha Damodar who were the traveling deities in the early days of ISKCON. And it was just really, when that knowledge or that information came to me, it was really just very, very inspiring. But then also today, as we were speaking, I had the remembrance that our Goranitai here in Ottawa were also traveling Sankirtan deities in their early days. They actually traveled to New Vrindavan and in northern Ontario at that point, because the devotees didn't have anyone to stay back. So the deities had to kind of go on the bus and travel with them. And so they also have, and I'm not sure if any other devotees or any other deities in North America have that claim to fame, but I think it's really nice connection that we may have between Gita Nagari and ISKCON Ottawa. And so it's nice to see that maybe you'll be able to offer us some guidance into the future on the component of cow protection, which we are not haven't begun yet, but maybe it's in our future. So if Gita Nagari and devotees such as yourself and Dinanath, who now has come to us, can sort of forge those relationships and connections, then that would be our honor. So thank you very much for your class today.
Thank you, Prabhu. I really appreciate it. We're like cousins. We're like deity cousins.
Correct.
So yes, anything I can offer, I'm very happy to offer. You know, and I'm just glad to be able to observe whatever you all are doing there in Ottawa. I'm excited to see where you'll be in the future. So thank you.
Right, thank you. Yeah. We had Dinanath Prabhu. One quick question from Dinanath Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhu. I wanted to say that we're not gonna let you go unless you tell us one funny story about one of the cows that happened.
I have a funny story of the cows. Goodness. Funny story with the cows. You want to hear about one of the first times my ox training tribulations?
Yeah.
So I have a young team of oxen at this time. This must have been about 4 years ago. It's my first team of oxen that I'd ever tried to train. And I didn't really have any experience myself. I was kind of just doing it and kind of learning along the way. And anyways, these boys I had been working with for a little while, Arjuna and Sahadev, I had been working with them for a couple of months, and we were now getting to the stage for when to put a cart behind them, you know, to put a little cart with some wheels and get them pulling something behind them. So I was out there on the lawn one day. We have a big yoga studio, and there was a yoga event going on inside, and I was kind of outside out on the lawn with the boys. And anyway, so I got them hitched up to this cart, and I was standing next to them about ready to tell them to start going. And, you know, being new, I didn't really fully understand yet that oxen, kind of similarly to horses, when they hear something behind them, they often get quite scared by it, especially if it's a new thing. And anyways, I was a new guy and didn't really know that so well. So I told them I had my little stick and I was standing next to them, and I told them, okay, boys, let's go. Let's get up. Let's take a couple steps. So I did that, and they very, you know, dutifully started walking forward. But when they started walking forward, they heard this of the cartwheels turning over. And each step that they took, they heard the sound, and then they would try to step a little faster to get away from it. And then the sound would get louder. And then they moved faster, and then within a few seconds, they were on a full sprint, running straight for the screen door at the yoga studio, where there was like 40 people inside doing a yoga class. And so what can you do? I had to let them go. They ran around. And then finally they came back to me, and the whole yoga group was out on the lawn looking at all the commotion. So yeah, sometimes you can get a little bit of embarrassment too while you're doing cow protection. It's good for your heart, purifies you, false ego. So thanks for bringing that out, Dinanath.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. This is really wonderful. We do hope again that I'm so happy that we established this connection somehow. That Krishna found a way to bring you to us, and we hope that we can hear from you again. maybe perhaps visit or have you come and visit us as well. And we very much look forward to that. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Again, thank you for taking the time, taking our invitation. And I'm sure you have very many important services and you're a busy person. So thank you for making the time to prepare something for us and sharing some Krishna consciousness with us.
Yeah, thank you, both, all of you. Like I said, I'm very humbled, to be able to have an opportunity to speak to all of you. I'm sure many of you are far more senior and learned than I am, but in any case, I'm glad, Krishna Jalal, that you're able to invite me, and hopefully it was pleasing for Gorni Tai and for the devotees. And yeah, I'm always happy to talk about cows and Krishna, and so please reach out if anyone's trying to do something. I'm happy to offer any resources that I might have available to me. So
That's wonderful. I'm wondering if is it possible to get a live feed into the barn? One day to actually see the cows.
Yeah, we do. We do actually. We do our morning Bhagavatam class, and we put a camera with the cows on it, so you can go and listen to Bhagavatam class and watch the cows listening to Bhagavatam class while they get milked in the morning.
Cool.
So I'll send that to you.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you, dear devotees, for your wonderful questions, your appreciations, your comments. It was really great. And we look forward to more every week. And now, as we're concluding our program, we're going to have a short kirtan and a few minutes of darshan with the deities, and we will conclude. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Gaura Nitai ki jai.